The stars looked different through the windows of the Horizons Bridge. Park Ji-woo pressed his face against the cool glass and watched the Keelan border station grow larger. It was a beautiful thing, all curved metal and blue lights that pulsed like a heartbeat. This was it. First contact with an alien empire. His job was simple. Don't mess it up. Stop touching the window with your face, Kang Nari said behind him. She was looking at her tablet, her fingers moving fast across the screen. You're the diplomat. Try to look professional. Ji-woo turned and grinned. I am professional. Very professional. He straightened his jacket and ran a hand through his hair. See? Perfect. Nari shook her head. She had been his advisor for 3 years now, and she knew him too well. Just remember what I told you. The Keelans are formal. They care about honor and respect. Do not make jokes. Do not give anyone a nickname. Just be polite and smile. When have I ever given anyone a nickname? Ji-woo asked. You call Captain Lee the Iron Wall because he never laughs at your jokes. That's different. That's accurate. Captain Lee Doyen's voice came through the speakers overhead. We're docking in 5 minutes. Diplomatic team, get ready. Ji-woo's heart beat faster. He had trained for this moment for months. Humanity had only achieved faster-than-light travel 2 years ago. The Keelan Empire had been watching them the whole time, waiting to see if humans were dangerous or stupid. Now they were finally willing to talk. Everything depended on this meeting going well. The docking bay was huge and empty, except for the Keelan delegation waiting at the far end. Ji-woo walked down the ramp with Nari beside him. His shoes made small clicking sounds on the metal floor. He tried to walk confidently, but his legs felt strange. The Keelans were shorter than he expected. They came up to his shoulder, with thin builds and long fingers. But their skin caught his attention immediately. It was blue. Not light blue or painted blue, but a deep, rich blue like the ocean at night. Patterns of lighter blue traced across their faces and arms, glowing softly. It was beautiful. The lead Keelan stepped forward. She wore robes of dark fabric that seemed to move like water. Her glowing patterns were brighter than the others, arranged in complex designs around her eyes and down her neck. She was clearly important. I am Ambassador Yule of the Keelan Empire, she said. Her voice was clear and precise. Welcome to our space. Ji-woo bowed as Nari had taught him. Thank you, Ambassador. I am Park Ji-woo, representing Earth and the Human Coalition. This is my advisor, Kang Nari. Yule's eyes moved over him, studying him carefully. Her expression was difficult to read. Shall we begin negotiations? They moved to a meeting room with a large round table. The Keelans sat on one side, humans on the other. For 3 hours, they discussed trade routes and territory boundaries. Yule was sharp. Every time Ji-woo suggested something, she found the weakness in it and pushed for better terms. But she did it with such smooth politeness that he almost didn't notice he was losing ground. You're good at this, Ji-woo said during a break. He meant it as a compliment. You always find the angles I miss. Yule's patterns flickered slightly. I am simply being thorough. Thorough, Ji-woo repeated, smiling. That's one word for it. You're like a little blue imp, always finding mischief in the details. The room went silent. Yule's patterns stopped flickering. Her skin began to change color. The blue darkened, then shifted. Red spread across her face and arms like spilled wine. Her eyes went wide, and her mouth opened slightly. Nari grabbed Ji-woo's arm hard enough to hurt. Oh no, she whispered. What? Ji-woo looked between them, confused. What did I say? Yule stood up slowly. Her whole body was red now, glowing with angry light. The other Keelan stepped back. She walked around the table toward Ji-woo. He stood up, his hands raised. Ambassador, I apologize if... The slap came fast. Her small hand cracked across his face with surprising force. His head snapped to the side and he stumbled back. His cheek burned. His eyes watered. He touched his face and felt the heat radiating from his skin. You dare, Yule said, her voice shaking. You dare insult me with such language. I didn't mean... Silence. Her patterns blazed brighter. You call me imp? You call me creature of dishonor and cowardice, after I welcomed you with respect? Jiwoo's mind raced. Imp? He had just meant she was clever and playful. What was wrong with that? The other Keelans moved to Yule's side. One of them, an older male with gray in his hair, spoke in a low voice. Ambassador, the blood debt is declared. We should leave. Blood debt? Jiwoo said. Wait, please, I don't understand. Yule turned her back on him. This negotiation is over. The human delegation will leave our space immediately. You have insulted the honor of the Keelan Empire. There will be consequences. She walked toward the door. The other Keelans followed her like a wave of blue and red light. Within seconds, they were gone. The door slid shut with a soft hiss. Jiwoo stood there, his hand still on his burning cheek. Nari was staring at her tablet, her face pale. What just happened? Jiwoo asked. You called her an imp, Nari said quietly. I'm looking it up now, in the Keelan language. She stopped. Her eyes went wide. Oh no. Oh no, no, no. What? Tell me. The word imp translates to their language as something like dishonored coward who brings shame to their family. It's one of the worst insults in their culture, and when a Keelan turns red like that, it means they've declared a blood debt. It's serious, Jiwoo. Really serious. Jiwoo sat down hard in his chair. His legs felt weak. I didn't know. I was trying to be friendly. I just meant she was clever. I told you not to give anyone a nickname. I know you did. He put his head in his hands. Can we fix this? Can we apologize? Before Nari could answer, Captain Lee's voice came through the speakers. All personnel battle stations, the Keelan fleet is powering weapons. We're leaving immediately. Jiwoo looked up. Through the window, he could see Keelan ships moving into position, their blue lights now burning red. Dozens of them, maybe hundreds. What have I done? He whispered. The Horizon's bridge shook as its engines fired. They pulled away from the station fast, running for human space. Jiwoo watched the Keelan fleet through the window, getting smaller but not following. Not yet. Nari stood beside him. We need to tell Earth Command what happened. They need to prepare for the worst. War, Jiwoo said. I might have just started a war with my stupid mouth. She didn't disagree with him. She just put a hand on his shoulder and squeezed gently. Outside, the stars looked different again. Colder, more distant. Humanity's first contact with an alien empire had lasted 3 hours and ended with a slap and a threat. Jiwoo touched his burning cheek and wondered how something so small could go so wrong so fast. The meeting room on Earth was cold. Jiwoo sat at a long table with 5 other people staring at him. His cheek still hurt 3 days later. The bruise had turned purple and yellow. Every time he looked in a mirror, he remembered Yule's red face and burning anger. Captain Lee sat at the head of the table, his arms crossed. Beside him was Dr. Choi Minji, the xenopsychologist who studied alien minds. Kang Nari was next to Jiwoo, her tablet open and covered in notes. 2 military advisors sat on the other side, their faces serious and unsmiling. Tell me again, Captain Lee said. Explain exactly what you said. Jiwoo had told this story 20 times already. I called her a blue imp. I meant it as a joke. She was good at negotiations. I thought it was friendly. Dr. Choi leaned forward. She was an older woman with gray hair and kind eyes, but right now those eyes were worried. The Keelans have responded to our apology messages. They rejected all of them. They say only a formal challenge can restore honor. What kind of challenge? Jiwoo asked. Nari turned her tablet around so everyone could see. I've been researching their culture for 3 days straight. The blood debt tradition goes back thousands of years. When someone insults your honor deeply, you can declare blood debt. The person who insulted you must complete a challenge to restore honor. If they refuse or fail, their people are considered enemies. So I have to fight her? Jiwoo's stomach felt sick. I can't fight her. I don't want to hurt anyone. It's not physical combat, Nari said. At least I don't think so. The records are unclear. The Keelans keep most of their traditions private, but it involves tests. Proving you understand what you did wrong. Captain Lee rubbed his face. He looked tired. The Keelan fleet is positioned at our border. 50 ships. They haven't attacked, but they're not leaving either. Earth Command wants to send our military fleet to meet them, but that could make things worse. How much worse can it get? One of the military advisors asked. A lot worse, Dr. Choi said quietly. The Keelan Empire has been spacefaring for 500 years. They have weapons we've never seen. If this becomes a war, we'll lose. The room went silent. Jiwoo felt everyone's eyes on him. The weight of it pressed down on his shoulders. One stupid nickname. One careless moment. Now his entire species was in danger. I'll do it, Jiwoo said. Whatever this challenge is, I'll do it. You don't know what it involves, Captain Lee said. Doesn't matter. This is my fault. I'll fix it. Nari put her hand on his arm. Jiwoo, this could be dangerous. We don't know what they'll do to you. Then I'll find out. He stood up. Send them a message. Tell them I accept the challenge. Dr. Choi and Captain Lee looked at each other. Finally, the captain nodded. I'll inform Earth Command. But Jiwoo, if this goes wrong, it won't, Jiwoo said, trying to sound more confident than he felt. I'll make this right. 2 days later, a Keelan ship arrived at Earth. It was smaller than their warships, with elegant curves and those same pulsing blue lights. A message came through. Ambassador Yule would escort Jiwoo to the Keelan homeworld for the challenge. He was allowed one advisor. He chose Nari. They met Yule in the docking bay. She wore different robes now, deep purple instead of black. Her skin was blue again, but her patterns were dim. She looked at Jiwoo with cold eyes. You accepted? She said. Yes. Jiwoo bowed deeply. Ambassador, I want to apologize again. I didn't know. Your ignorance does not erase the insult, Yule interrupted. But you showed courage by accepting the challenge. That counts for something. They boarded the Keelan ship. Inside, everything was smooth and curved. The walls glowed with soft light. There were no sharp corners anywhere. Yule led them to a small room with cushions on the floor instead of chairs. Sit, she said. We have a long journey. I will explain what you must face. Jiwoo and Nari sat. Yule remained standing, her hands clasped behind her back. The trial of clarity has 3 parts, Yule began. First, the test of mind. You will solve puzzles that show you understand Keelan logic and thinking. Second, the test of heart. You will face situations that require emotional control and proper responses. Third, the test of knowledge. You will demonstrate understanding of our culture and history. That doesn't sound too bad, Jiwoo said. Yule's patterns flickered. Many fail. Those who fail are sent home. Their people are marked as dishonored. The Keelan Empire cuts all contact. Forever? Nari asked. Forever. The ship's engines hummed. Jiwoo felt the vibration through the floor. Can I study? Do you have books or files I can read? You may study, Yule said. But knowledge alone won't help you. The trial test character, not just facts. She moved to the door, then paused. Why did you call me that name? Jiwoo looked up at her. I thought you were clever. The way you negotiated, finding every advantage. It reminded me of stories from my culture about clever spirits. I meant it as respect. Respect, Yule repeated. Her patterns grew slightly brighter. In your language, imp means clever spirit. Sometimes. It can also mean troublemaker, but in a playful way. In our language, it means coward who abandons family in danger. It means someone without honor who lives in shame. Yule's voice was quiet. My great-grandfather was called that word before he died. He took his own life because of the shame. Jiwoo felt his stomach drop. I didn't know. I swear I didn't know. That is why you will take the trial. To prove you can learn. To show your ignorance was not malice. She left the room, the door sliding shut behind her. Nari let out a long breath. This is worse than I thought. I know. Jiwoo pulled out his tablet. We need to study everything about Keelan culture, everything. For 3 days they read and watched and learned. The Keelan homeworld was called Keela. The species had almost destroyed itself 2,000 years ago in brutal civil wars. Honor traditions grew from that time, meant to prevent such violence again. Family was everything. Duty was sacred. Insults to honor were taken seriously because they once led to murder and war. Jiwoo learned that Keelan's skin changed color with strong emotion. Blue was calm. Purple was respect or surprise. Red was anger or fierce determination. Green was fear. Yellow was joy. Their patterns were like fingerprints unique to each person. He learned their greetings and bowing customs. He learned the proper way to address elders and leaders. He learned that touching someone without permission was deeply offensive. He learned that direct eye contact was a sign of trust. His head hurt from all the information. Every time he thought he understood something, he found another layer of complexity. Keelan culture was old and intricate, built on thousands of years of tradition. On the fourth day, the ship arrived at Kela. Jiwoo looked out the window and saw a blue-green planet with white clouds. Cities covered the surface, connected by bright lines of transportation. Orbital stations hung in the sky like silver stars. "It's beautiful," Nari whispered. Yul entered the room. "We're landing soon. The trial begins tomorrow at dawn. You should rest," Ambassador Jiwoo said. "Thank you for giving me this chance." Yul's patterns flickered. She looked at him for a long moment. "Don't thank me yet. Most who take the trial fail." She turned to leave, then stopped. "But I hope you succeed, Park Jiwoo. Your species is young and ignorant, but perhaps not malicious. That would be worth knowing." After she left, Jiwoo and Nari looked at each other. "No pressure," Nari said. Jiwoo laughed, but it sounded nervous even to his own ears. Tomorrow everything would be decided. Either he would prove humanity could learn and grow, or he would doom his species to isolation and possible war. He touched his bruised cheek one more time. Then he started preparing for the trial that would determine humanity's future. The sun rose over Kela in shades of purple and gold. Jiwoo stood in a courtyard made of white stone that seemed to glow in the early light. His hands were shaking. He pressed them against his legs to make them stop. Around him, hundreds of Keelans gathered in silence. They stood on balconies and walkways that circled the courtyard. All of them watched him. Their faces showed nothing. Their patterns pulsed slowly in the morning air. Yul stood at the far end of the courtyard with an elderly Keelan male. He was tall for a Keelan, almost reaching Jiwoo's height. His patterns were silver instead of blue, marking him as very old. His eyes were sharp and clear. "I am Elder Vin," the old Keelan said. His voice carried across the courtyard easily. "I will oversee the trial of clarity. Park Jiwoo of Earth, do you understand why you are here?" Jiwoo's throat was dry. "Yes, Elder. I insulted Ambassador Yul. I disrespected her honor. I come to prove I can learn and understand." Elder Vin nodded slowly. "Then let the first test begin." Two younger Keelans brought forward a table. On it sat a strange puzzle made of glowing pieces. They floated above the table, held up by nothing Jiwoo could see. The pieces shifted and turned, forming patterns that dissolved and reformed. "This is the test of mind," Elder Vin said. "You must arrange these pieces to show balance and harmony. You have until the sun reaches its peak. Begin." Jiwoo approached the table. Up close, the floating pieces hummed softly. There were 12 of them, each a different shape. Some were triangles, some were circles, some were shapes he had no name for. They glowed with internal light that pulsed in rhythms. He reached out carefully and touched one piece. It was warm. When he moved it, the other pieces shifted slightly, reacting to the movement. He understood. The pieces were connected somehow. Moving one affected all the others. For an hour he tried different arrangements. Nothing worked. The pieces wouldn't settle into any pattern that felt right. He could feel sweat on his back despite the cool morning air. The watching Keelans remained silent. It was like being studied by hundreds of statues. Nari sat at the edge of the courtyard. She couldn't help him, but she could watch. Every time he looked at her, she gave him a small nod of encouragement. Jiwoo stepped back from the table. He was thinking about it wrong. He was trying to force the pieces into patterns that made sense to him, to human eyes. But this was a Keelan test. He needed to think like a Keelan. Balance and harmony. Those words were important in Keelan culture. He had read about them. Balance didn't mean symmetry. It meant each piece supporting the others. Harmony meant working together, not standing alone. He started again. This time he didn't try to make pretty patterns. He moved pieces based on how they affected each other. When one piece made another pulse faster, he adjusted. When two pieces seemed to pull toward each other, he let them get closer. Slowly, a structure emerged. It wasn't symmetrical. It looked almost random to his eyes. But the pieces settled into place, their pulsing synchronized. When he placed the last piece, all 12 began to glow brighter. A soft tone rang out across the courtyard. Elder Vin nodded. "The test of mind is complete. You have shown you can see beyond your own perspective. Jiwoo let out a breath he didn't know he was holding. 1 test down. 2 more to go. They brought out a chair and made him sit. A Keelan female with green patterns brought him water. He drank it gratefully. The second test begins now, Elder Vin said. The test of heart. Yul stepped forward. She stood in front of Jiwoo, her face expressionless. I will say words to you. You will respond. Your responses will show if you understand proper emotional control. Jiwoo nodded. His heart was beating fast again. Yul's patterns flickered. When she spoke, her voice was cold. You are weak. Your species is primitive. You don't deserve to walk among the stars. The words hit him like fists. Jiwoo felt anger rise in his chest. His first instinct was to argue to defend humanity. But he remembered his studies. Keelans valued emotional control. Reacting with anger would fail the test. He took a slow breath. You may be right. We are young. We have much to learn. I hope we can learn from species like yours. Yul's patterns shifted slightly. She continued. Your apology means nothing. Words are empty. You cannot undo what you did. You're right again, Jiwoo said quietly. I can't undo it. But I can try to be better. I can learn from my mistake. You come here and expect us to forgive you? To trust you? Why should we? This question was harder. Jiwoo thought carefully before answering. You shouldn't. Trust must be earned. Forgiveness must be earned. I'm not here to demand either. I'm here to show I'm willing to try. Yul stepped closer. Her voice dropped lower. You insulted me in front of my people. You made me feel small. Do you understand that? For the first time, Jiwoo heard something other than coldness in her voice. He heard hurt. He looked up at her face and saw her patterns flickering rapidly. I do now, he said softly. I'm sorry. Truly sorry. Not because of the political situation or the threat of war. I'm sorry because I hurt you. That was wrong. Yul stared at him for a long moment. Her pattern shifted to purple, that color of surprise. She turned to Elder Vin and spoke in the Keelan language. The elder replied, and Yul bowed slightly before stepping back. The test of heart is complete, Elder Vin said. You have shown understanding of proper emotional response. You controlled anger, accepted criticism, and offered genuine remorse. 2 tests done. Jiwoo's legs felt weak. The sun was higher now, heating the courtyard. The gathered Keelans murmured to each other, their voices like wind through leaves. The final test, Elder Vin said. The test of knowledge. They brought forward a small cushion and placed it in the center of the courtyard. Elder Vin sat on it and gestured for Jiwoo to sit facing him. I will ask you questions about our people, Elder Vin said. Some answers can be found in books. Some cannot. Answer truthfully. If you don't know, say so. Lies will fail you faster than ignorance. Jiwoo sat. His mind raced through everything he had studied. Why do Keelans value honor so highly? Elder Vin asked. Because you almost destroyed yourselves, Jiwoo said. 2,000 years ago, your people fought terrible wars. Families killed each other. Cities burned. The honor traditions grew from that time to prevent it from happening again. Good. Why do our patterns change color? To show emotion. Blue is calm, red is anger or determination, purple is surprise or respect, green is fear, yellow is joy. The patterns are how you communicate truth. You can't hide your feelings. Why is family so important to us? Jiwoo paused. This wasn't something he had read directly. He thought about everything he had learned. Because family is who you are. Your actions reflect on them. Their actions reflect on you. When I insulted Ambassador Yul, I insulted her whole family line. That's why it was so serious. Elder Vin's patterns pulsed brighter. Yes, now a harder question. Why did you come here? The real reason. To prevent war, Jiwoo started, then stopped. Elder Vin had said to be truthful. He started again. That's part of it. But also because I felt guilty. I hurt someone without meaning to. I wanted to make it right. Even if making it right was dangerous. Yes, why? Jiwoo thought about this. Because that's what my family taught me. When you make a mistake, you fix it. You don't run away. Elder Vin leaned forward slightly. Last question. What did you learn from this trial? I learned that being friendly isn't enough. I learned that I need to understand people before I joke with them. I learned that words have power in history. I learned that my ignorance doesn't excuse my mistakes. Jiwoo met Elder Vin's eyes. I learned that your people have been hurt before and that makes you careful. That's not weakness. That's wisdom. The courtyard fell silent. Even the murmuring stopped. Elder Vin stood slowly. He raised his hands. "The trial of clarity is complete," he announced. His voice rang out across the space. Park Ji-woo of Earth has passed all 3 tests. He has shown he can think beyond himself, control his emotions, and learn from his mistakes. A sound rose from the gathered Keelans. It started soft, then grew louder. They were humming, a deep note that vibrated through the stone. Their patterns all pulsed together in rhythm. Yule stepped forward. Her patterns were bright purple now. She bowed to Ji-woo deeper than before. "Your honor is restored," she said, "and with it your people's standing." Ji-woo bowed back, careful to match her depth. When he straightened, he saw her face had changed. She was almost smiling. "You did well," she said quietly, so only he could hear. "Better than I expected. Does this mean we can start over?" Ji-woo asked. "Perhaps," Yule said. Her patterns flickered with something that might have been amusement. "But this time no nicknames. I promise," Ji-woo said. Then he grinned. "Unless you ask for one." Yule's patterns flashed red for just a moment. Ji-woo tensed, but then he saw her eyes. She was testing him. He kept smiling. Finally, Yule's patterns shifted to yellow. She laughed, a sound like bells ringing. It was the first time he had heard her laugh. 3 weeks after the trial, Ji-woo sat in a Keelan conference room trying to understand a trade agreement. His head hurt from reading the formal language. Beside him, Yule pointed to a section of the document. "This clause protects both our shipping routes," she explained. Her patterns were calm blue today. "If either of us is attacked, the other provides support." "That seems fair," Ji-woo said. He was about to say more when alarms started screaming. Red lights flashed throughout the building. Keelans rushed past the windows, their patterns flickering between blue and green. Yule stood immediately, her whole body tense. "What's happening?" Ji-woo asked. A young Keelan male burst through the door. "Ambassador! Attack at the border! Unknown ships!" Yule and Ji-woo ran to the command center. It was a large room filled with displays showing star maps and ship positions. General Moore stood at the center, barking orders. He was Yule's uncle, a broad-shouldered Keelan with patterns that glowed bright even in the harsh light. "Report," Yule demanded. 3 border stations attacked," General Moore said without turning. "Enemy ships are unlike anything we've seen. Silicon-based, possibly. They don't respond to communication. They just attack and destroy." One of the displays showed footage from a station. Strange ships swarmed around it like insects. They were angular and sharp with no visible windows or lights. They tore into the station's hull with beam weapons. Ji-woo's communicator buzzed. Commander Kim Taejin's voice came through, urgent and stressed. "Ji-woo, we have a situation. Human colonies on the border are under attack. Same enemy, not Keelan ships." "I know," Ji-woo said. "The Keelans are being attacked too." A moment of silence. "Then what are we dealing with?" Ji-woo looked at the displays. "I don't know, but we need to work together on this." General Moore finally turned around. His patterns were red, burning with fierce determination. "The human speaks sense. Whatever these creatures are, they attack both our species. We should coordinate defense." "I agree," Yule said. She looked at Ji-woo. "Can your Commander Kim come here? We need to share information fast." Ji-woo made the call. Within an hour, Commander Kim's face appeared on a display. He was a stern man with gray hair and sharp eyes. Behind him, Ji-woo could see human officers rushing around. "The situation is bad," Commander Kim said. "We've lost 2 colonies, 17 ships destroyed. The enemy doesn't take prisoners. They just kill and move on. We've lost 4 stations," General Moore added. "Over 3,000 dead. These creatures fight like nothing we've encountered. They spent hours comparing data. The enemy ships were fast and aggressive. They seemed to operate as one unit, moving together like a school of fish. When one ship was destroyed, the others adapted immediately to new tactics. It's a hive mind, Dr. Choi said. She had joined the call from Earth. They share information instantly. That makes them incredibly dangerous. Do we know what they want? Yule asked. Resources, probably, Commander Kim said. They're stripping our colonies of metal and minerals, taking everything and leaving nothing behind. The Hrask swarm, Elder Vin said. He had entered the command center quietly. Everyone turned to look at him. We have old records. 500 years ago, our scouts encountered them at the edge of our space. We thought they were gone, and what are they? Jiwoo asked. Silicon-based life, Elder Vin explained. They don't breathe oxygen. They consume metal and stone. They reproduce by building new ships. Every ship is a living creature and part of the swarm. They're always hungry, always expanding. General Moore slammed his fist on a table. How do we fight them? Together, Yule said. She looked between the displays showing human and Keelan forces. We need to combine our tactics. General Moore, our precision targeting. Commander Kim, your aggressive assault strategies together. Commander Kim frowned. Our people have barely started working together. Can we coordinate in battle? We don't have a choice, Jiwoo said. The Hrask don't care about our politics. They'll destroy both our species if we don't stop them. They worked through the night planning. Keelan weapons were precise and efficient. Human weapons were powerful but used more resources. Keelan ships were fast and elegant. Human ships were tougher and could take more damage. Different strengths that could complement each other. A week later, Jiwoo found himself on a joint mission ship called Unity. It was half Keelan design, half human. The result looked strange but functional. Yule was there too, coordinating with both species' forces. Feeling nervous? She asked him. Terrified, Jiwoo admitted. I'm a diplomat, not a soldier. You passed the trial of clarity, Yule said. Her patterns flickered with purple respect. You're braver than you think. The mission was to scout a Hrask position and gather intelligence. They needed to understand how the swarm communicated. If they could disrupt that communication, they might have a chance. The ship dropped out of faster-than-light travel near a dead planet. Sensors showed Hrask ships swarming around it like bees around a hive. They were tearing the planet apart, harvesting its core. There must be thousands of them, Nari whispered. She was monitoring the scans from her station. We need to get closer, said Private O Sunmi, a human scout. Get detailed readings of their communication patterns. The ship crept forward. The pilot, a Keelan named Namjoon, was skilled. He used the debris field as cover, hiding Unity among broken asteroids. They got within 100 kilometers of the swarm. Then alarms shrieked. A Hrask scout ship had spotted them. Go, Yule shouted. Full speed. The ship lurched forward. Behind them, Hrask ships peeled away from the swarm like angry wasps. Their weapons lit up space with harsh red light. Return fire. Commander Kim ordered through the communications. Human weapons boomed. Keelan beam weapons sliced through the void. They destroyed 3 Hrask ships, but more kept coming. The swarm was reacting, sending more and more ships after them. We're not going to make it, Namjoon said, his patterns flickering green with fear. Jiwoo looked at the displays. The Hrask ships moved in perfect coordination. When one attacked from the left, others attacked from the right. When they dodged up, enemies were waiting above. It was like fighting one giant creature with 1,000 bodies. There, Jiwoo said suddenly, pointing at the display. Look at that ship in the center. The bigger one. Yule leaned closer. What about it? It's not attacking. It's just coordinating, watching. I think that's their command node. You mean like a queen bee? Private O asked. Maybe. If we destroy it, the others might lose coordination. Yule and Commander Kim exchanged looks through the display. It was risky. Going after the command ship meant going deeper into the swarm. Do it, Commander Kim said. We need every advantage we can get. Namjoon turned the ship hard, diving toward the center of the swarm. Hrask ships swarmed around them. The shields took hit after hit, the ship shaking with each impact. Weapons ready, Yule said calmly. Her patterns were red now, burning with fierce determination. Target the command ship. All weapons. When they were close enough, every weapon on Unity fired at once. Human missiles and Keelan beam weapons converged on the large Hrask ship. It exploded in a burst of debris and strange organic matter. Immediately, the swarm changed. The Hrask ships lost their coordination. They flew in confused patterns, bumping into each other. Some started fighting their own kind. It worked. Nari shouted, "Get us out of here," Yule ordered. They jumped to faster-than-light travel. When they emerged in safe space, everyone sat in stunned silence for a moment. Then Private O started laughing. We did it. We actually did it. Jiwoo looked at Yule. Her patterns were purple and yellow mixed together. Relief and joy. He felt the same way. Good idea, she said to him. The command node theory. I read a lot of human science fiction, Jiwoo admitted. Hive minds always have a central coordinator. Your people's fictional stories helped us survive. Yule's patterns flickered with amusement. Humans are strange. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? She considered this. Good, I think. Strange can be useful. They sent their data back to both fleets. Now they knew how to fight the Hrask more effectively. It wasn't a complete solution, but it was a start. General Moore contacted them personally. Good work, both of you. Human creativity and Keelan precision. That's a strong combination. Commander Kim nodded in agreement on his display. We need more teams like this. Mixed crews. Shared tactics. Over the following weeks, more joint missions launched. Humans and Keelans learning to work together, fighting side by side against the Hrask threat. It wasn't always smooth. There were cultural misunderstandings and arguments. But slowly, the two species figured it out. Jiwoo found himself working closely with Yule almost every day. He learned to read her patterns better. She learned to understand his jokes better. They made a good team. One evening after a long planning session, they stood together looking out a window at the stars. Strange how things work out, Jiwoo said. I insulted you. You slapped me. Now we're allies fighting a war together. Very strange, Yule agreed. Her patterns flickered with yellow. If you hadn't called me that name, our people might never have really talked. We would have stayed distant and formal. So my big mistake actually helped? In a twisted way, yes, she glanced at him. But don't let it go to your head. Jiwoo grinned. I wouldn't dream of it. The mission briefing lasted 2 hours. Jiwoo sat beside Yule in the strategy room, watching displays show maps of Hrask-controlled space. General Moore pointed at a red zone deep in enemy territory. Intelligence suggests the Hrask are building something here, he said. Something big. We need eyes on it. Real reconnaissance, not just long-range scans. That's suicide, Commander Kim said from his display. That far into their space? You won't make it back. We have to try, Yule said. Her patterns were steady blue, calm despite the danger. If they're building a weapon or a larger fleet, we need to know. Jiwoo studied the maps. The red zone was surrounded by Hrask patrols. Getting in would be nearly impossible. Getting out would be even harder. I'll go, he said. Everyone turned to look at him. Nari grabbed his arm. Jiwoo, no. You're a diplomat, not a spy. That's exactly why I should go, Jiwoo said. No one expects a diplomat on a spy mission. And someone needs to see what's happening there with their own eyes. Yule's patterns flickered. If you go, I go. Ambassador, you're too valuable, General Moore started. I'm going, Yule interrupted, her voice firm. Jiwoo is right. We need to see this personally. And a human Keelan team has the best chance. We can think differently, adapt faster. After more argument, they agreed. A small team would go. Jiwoo, Yule, Private Oh Sunmi the scout, and Namjoon the pilot. 4 people against an entire swarm. The ship they used was tiny, barely larger than a shuttle. It was built for stealth, not combat. Dark metal that didn't reflect light. Engines that ran cold and quiet. It was called Shadow. If anything goes wrong, Commander Kim said before they left, you're on your own. We can't risk a rescue mission that deep. Understood, Jiwoo said. They launched quietly, slipping into faster-than-light travel. For 3 days, they moved through space, avoiding Hrask patrols. Namjoon was an excellent pilot. He threaded them through asteroid fields and behind moons, always staying hidden. On the 4th day, they reached the red zone. What they saw made everyone stop breathing. The Hrask were building a massive structure in space. It was the size of a small moon, made of metal and stone stripped from nearby planets. Ships swarmed around it like ants on a hill. Thousands of them. Maybe tens of thousands. What is that thing? Private O whispered. Yule's patterns flickered through several colors before settling on green. Fear. A shipyard. They're not just repairing ships. They're building new ones, hundreds at a time. Jiwoo activated the recording equipment. They needed to capture everything. Size, design, defenses, everything. This information could save both their species. Getting closer, Namjoon said. His hands were steady on the controls, but his patterns showed his fear. They were within 50 kilometers when the first alarm sounded. A Hrask patrol had spotted them. Not the ship, but the energy signature from their scans. Go! Yule shouted. Namjoon pushed the engines to full power. They shot away from the structure, but Hrask ships were everywhere. Beam weapons lit up the space around them. The ship's shields took hit after hit. Shields at 60%, Private O called out. 50%. 40. More Hrask ships appeared ahead of them. They were surrounded. Namjoon dove toward a nearby moon, using its gravity to sling them around at high speed. It worked. They lost some of their pursuers, but not enough. More kept coming. The swarm never seemed to end. We need to jump to faster than light, Jiwoo said. Can't, Namjoon replied. His patterns were bright green now. Engines damaged. Need time to repair. We don't have time. Private O yelled as another hit rocked the ship. Yul made a decision. There, that asteroid belt. Hide us in there. Namjoon flew into the belt. Asteroids tumbled around them, some as big as buildings. He wove between them expertly. Behind them, Hrask ships followed, but they were less agile in the tight space. Several crashed into asteroids, then a massive explosion. A Hrask weapon hit a nearby asteroid, breaking it apart. A huge chunk of rock tumbled toward them. Hold on! Namjoon tried to dodge, but there wasn't enough room. The asteroid chunk hit them. The ship spun wildly. Alarm screamed. Sparks flew from damaged systems. They crashed into another asteroid, grinding along its surface before bouncing off into space. When the spinning stopped, everything was quiet except for the hiss of escaping air. Everyone okay? Yul asked. Groans answered her. Jiwoo tasted blood in his mouth. His shoulder hurt badly. Private O had a cut on her forehead that bled down her face. Namjoon's arm hung at a wrong angle. Life support failing, the ship's computer announced in a calm voice. Hull breach detected. Engine failure. Unable to repair, Jiwoo looked out the window. They had crashed onto a small moon, rocky and gray with no atmosphere. Above them, Hrask ships searched the asteroid belt, but they hadn't found the crashed ship yet. We need to get out, Private O said. Before they find us. They put on emergency suits and evacuated the ship. The moon's gravity was weak. Each step made them float slightly. They found a cave in the rocky surface and hid inside. For hours they watched Hrask ships search. Finally the ships left. Either they thought the crashed ship was destroyed or they gave up looking. Now what? Jiwoo asked. We fixed the ship, Namjoon said. His voice was tight with pain. If we can. They went back to Shadow. The damage was bad. The engines were destroyed. The communication system was dead. Life support was offline, but the structure was mostly intact and some systems still had power. We can work with this, Private O said. She was good with machines. But it will take time. Days, maybe weeks. We don't have weeks, Yul said. Our supplies will run out in 4 days. They set up camp inside the broken ship. It was cold. The heaters barely worked. They rationed food and water carefully. Namjoon's arm was broken, but they had a medical kit that sealed it in a hard cast. Days passed slowly. Private O worked on the engines while Namjoon helped with his good arm. Jiwoo and Yul took turns keeping watch for Hrask patrols. On the third night, Jiwoo and Yul sat together in the cockpit. The stars outside looked cold and distant. Their breath made small clouds in the freezing air. Tell me about Earth, Yul said suddenly. Jiwoo was surprised. They didn't usually talk about personal things. What do you want to know? Everything. What's it like? Your home, so Jiwoo told her. About blue oceans and green forests. About cities that never slept. About music and art and food from 1,000 different cultures. About his family and how his mother made terrible jokes just like him. It sounds chaotic, Yul said, but her patterns were yellow. Joy. It is, Jiwoo admitted, but it's beautiful too. What about Kayla? Yul's patterns shifted to softer blue. Kayla is ancient. Every stone has history. We have gardens that have grown for 1,000 years. Cities built by our ancestors. Everything is connected to the past. You must miss it. I do. Her patterns dimmed slightly. I miss my family, my sister. She's younger than me, always getting into trouble. Yul smiled. You would like her. Why do you say that? Because she's like you. Says things without thinking. Makes jokes at wrong times. But her heart is good. They sat in comfortable silence for a while. Then Yul spoke again, her voice quiet. When you called me that name, I was so angry. Not just because of the insult. I was angry because, she paused, because I had liked you. Before that moment. You were different from other diplomats. More real, more honest. And then you said that word and I thought maybe I was wrong about you. Jiwoo didn't know what to say. He had never known she felt that way. But I wasn't wrong, Yul continued. You really are honest and real. You just didn't know better. When you took the trial, when you worked so hard to learn, I saw who you really were. I'm sorry I hurt you, Jiwoo said. Truly. I know. Her patterns turned purple. That's why we're friends now. Friends? Yes, is that wrong? No, Jiwoo said quickly. No, that's good. I like that. Yul's patterns shifted to yellow again. They sat together watching the stars until it was time to switch watch. On the 6th day, Private O got the engines working. Barely. They would have one chance to jump to faster than light travel. If it failed, they would be stuck forever. Ready? Namjoon asked from the pilot seat. Everyone strapped in. Jiwoo held onto his seat with white knuckles. Namjoon counted down from 3. The engines roared. The ship shook. For a terrible moment, nothing happened. Then space twisted around them and they jumped. They emerged in human space 3 hours later. The ship's engines immediately died, but they were safe. A human patrol found them within an hour. When they got back to the command center, they uploaded all their recordings. The data showed exactly what they had feared. The Hrask were building a massive fleet. If they finished it, both human and Keelan forces would be overwhelmed. "We need to attack that shipyard," General Moore said. "Before they complete it, it will take everything we have," Commander Kim added. "Both our fleets together, then we do it," Yul said. Her patterns burned red with determination. "We have no choice." That night, Jiwoo found Yul on an observation deck. She stood looking at the stars, her patterns dim and tired. "Thank you," he said, "for saving us, for being brave." "We saved each other," Yul replied. "That's what friends do." She reached out and took his hand. Her skin was cool and smooth. They stood together, hand in hand, preparing for the battle that was coming. Jiwoo felt tears on his face. Beside him, Yul's patterns glowed soft purple and blue, respect and sadness mixed togue. 3 months after the battle, Jiwoo stood in the Grand Hall on Kala. Sunlight streamed through tall windows, making patterns on the polished floor. Around him, hundreds of dignitaries from both species filled the hall, human and Keelan, standing together in a way that would have been impossible a year ago. Today was the formal treaty signing. The Human-Keelan alliance would become official, not just a temporary partnership against the Hrask, but a permanent bond between their peoples. Empress Kayla stood at a podium, her patterns glowing bright with the formal occasion. Today marks a new chapter in history. We faced a terrible enemy together. We lost much, but we gained something precious: understanding, trust, friendship. Admiral Han spoke next, representing humanity. The path here was not easy. We made mistakes. We misunderstood each other. But we learned. That's what humanity does best. We adapt, we grow, we become better than we were. Then it was Jiwoo's turn. He walked to the podium on shaking legs. All these important people were watching him. The diplomat who had almost started a war with a careless nickname. "I made a terrible mistake," he began. His voice echoed in the hall. "I insulted Ambassador Yul without understanding what my words meant. I could have destroyed everything before it began. But Ambassador Yul gave me a chance. She let me take the trial. She let me learn." He looked at Yul, who stood in the front row. Her patterns were soft blue and purple. "What I learned was this. We are different, humans and Keelans. We think differently. We feel differently. We express ourselves differently. But we're not so different that we can't understand each other. We just have to try. We have to be willing to learn, to listen, to admit when we're wrong." He paused. "The Hrask nearly destroyed us, but they also brought us together. They showed us that we're stronger together than apart, not just in battle, in everything. Human creativity and Keelan wisdom, human adaptability and Keelan precision. Together we can face anything." Applause filled the hall. Jiwoo stepped down, his heart pounding. He had done it, no jokes, no nicknames, just honesty. The treaty was signed by Empress Keela and the human president via hologram. Pens scratched on paper, seals were stamped. It was official. After the ceremony, there was a reception. Jiwoo found himself surrounded by people congratulating him. It was overwhelming. He slipped away to a quiet balcony overlooking the Keelan capital city. The city was beautiful. Spiral towers reached toward the sky. Gardens grew on rooftops and hanging bridges. Everything was connected by curved walkways that looked like art. In the distance, he could see the ocean, deep blue under the setting sun. "Hiding?" Yul's voice came from behind him. Jiwoo turned and smiled. "Just taking a break. Too many people in there?" She joined him at the railing. Her patterns were relaxed yellow now. "You gave a good speech. Thanks. I practiced it 50 times, it showed." She was teasing him. He had learned to recognize it now. But it was good, honest. They stood in comfortable silence watching the sunset. It was strange how natural this felt now. Just months ago they had been enemies. Then allies. "Now friends, I have news," Yul said. "I'm being sent to Earth." Jiwoo's heart jumped. "Really?" Yes, as the first permanent Keelan ambassador. I'll be setting up an embassy, working on cultural exchange programs, teaching humans about Keelan ways. Her patterns flickered with nervousness. If you'll have me, of course we will, Jiwoo said. Earth is going to love you. I'm not sure about that. Humans are so... She searched for the word. Loud. Everything is loud. Your music, your cities, your conversations. You'll get used to it. I promise to show you the good parts. The quiet parts, too. We have those. Will you be my guide? Always. Her patterns shifted to deeper purple. Respect and something else. Something warmer. I'd like that. Over the next few weeks, Yule visited Earth for the first time. Jiwoo kept his promise. He showed her everything. The oceans that reminded her of Keelan seas but were warmer and more alive. Forests so thick with green that even the air tasted different. Cities that never slept, full of lights and sounds and life. She tried human food and complained that it was too spicy. She listened to human music and said it was too chaotic, but found herself humming the tunes later. She visited museums and art galleries, comparing human art to Keelan art, finding beauty in both. One day they visited a memorial for those lost in the war. It was a simple place, a wall covered in names. Human and Keelan mixed together just as they had fought together. Yul stood before the wall, her patterns dim and sad. She reached out and touched a name. Kryn, he was in my battle group. 23 years old. He wanted to be a teacher when the war ended. Jiwoo put his hand on her shoulder. I'm sorry. So many dreams ended, Yul said quietly. So many futures that will never happen. But their sacrifice wasn't for nothing, Jiwoo said. Look what came from it. Our alliance. Our friendship. They died so we could have this. Is it enough? Is our friendship worth all those lives? Jiwoo thought about this carefully. I don't know if anything could be worth that. But we can honor them by making something good from it. By making sure we never forget the cost. By building a future that's better than the past. Yul's pattern shifted slightly toward yellow. Not much, just a hint. But it was there. They visited the memorial often after that. Sometimes together, sometimes alone. It became a place of quiet reflection. A reminder of where they had been and what they had overcome. One evening, months after the treaty signing, they stood on the balcony of the new Keelan embassy. It was a beautiful building that mixed human and Keelan architecture, curved walls like Keelan design but built with human materials and techniques. I have something to tell you, Yul said. She seemed nervous, her patterns flickering rapidly. What is it? Do you remember when you first called me that name? Blue Imp. Jiwoo winced. How could I forget? It's literally the worst thing I've ever done. I've been thinking about it, about everything that happened because of it. Her pattern settled into steady yellow. I'm glad you said it. What? Jiwoo stared at her. You're glad I insulted you? Not glad you insulted me. Glad it happened. She turned to face him fully. The war room was crowded with officers from both species. Displays covered every wall, showing ship positions and attack strategies. Admiral Han Soo-jin stood at the center, her gray hair pulled back tight. Beside her, Empress Kayla herself had come. The Keelan ruler was tall and elegant, her patterns complex and beautiful. This is our only chance, Admiral Han said. Her voice was steady and strong. If we don't destroy that shipyard now, the Hrask will build enough ships to overwhelm us. We're committing everything, Empress Kayla added. Her voice carried authority that made everyone listen. Every ship, every soldier. This battle decides our future. Jiwoo stood near the back with Yul. He had been given a field commission as a strategic advisor. It felt strange. Just months ago, he was a simple diplomat. Now he was helping plan the biggest military operation in human history. Nervous? Yul asked quietly. Terrified, Jiwoo admitted. You? Her patterns flickered between blue and green. The same. Commander Kim Taejin approached them. Jiwoo, you'll be on the Dauntless with Admiral Han. Yul, you're commanding the Keelan 3rd Battle Group. I want Jiwoo with me, Yul said immediately. We work well together. Commander Kim shook his head. We need you both in different places. Multiple command ships mean better coordination. Yul's patterns flashed red for a moment, but she controlled it. Understood. The fleet assembled over 3 days. 200 human ships, 300 Keelan vessels. It was the largest combined force either species had ever created. Ships of different designs and colors flying together under a shared banner. On the Dauntless, Jiwoo stood on the bridge watching the fleet through the windows. It was beautiful and terrifying. All these lives depending on their plan working. Admiral Han walked up beside him. First time commanding in a battle? Yes, ma'am. Don't call me ma'am. We're not that formal on my ship. She smiled slightly. The secret is to stay calm, even when everything goes wrong. Because it will go wrong. That's not very encouraging. It's honest. She looked at the fleet. Plans are good, but what really matters is how we react when the plan fails. That's when you see what people are made of. The fleet jumped to faster-than-light travel. When they emerged, the Hrask shipyard filled the displays. It was even bigger than before, almost complete, and it was guarded by thousands of Hrask ships. All ships, battle positions, Admiral Han ordered. The fleet split into groups. Human ships formed the main assault force. Keelan ships took flanking positions. Smaller strike teams would target the shipyard's weak points while the main force engaged the defenders. Enemy ships incoming. The tactical officer called out. Estimate 5,000 vessels. 5,000, someone whispered. The bridge went quiet. We knew they'd have numbers, Admiral Han said loudly. That's why we have a plan. Stick to it. Trust each other. We can win this. The Hrask swarm came at them like a wave of metal and malice. The two forces crashed together in a chaos of weapons fire and explosions. Space lit up with the flash of missiles and beam weapons. The Dauntless shook with every hit to its shields. Jiwoo held onto a railing to keep his balance. On the displays, he watched ships from both sides dying. Human frigates exploded in balls of fire. Keelan cruisers broke apart under sustained attack. And Hrask ships fell in even greater numbers. Strike Team Alpha is through, the communications officer reported. They're attacking the shipyard's power core. Good, Admiral Han said. All ships, push forward. Don't let the Hrask reinforce their defenses. The battle raged for hours. Jiwoo lost track of time. Everything became a blur of orders and explosions and desperate maneuvers. The fleet pushed deeper into the Hrask formation, taking heavy losses but not stopping. Then disaster struck. 3 Keelan battle groups were surrounded and cut off from the main fleet. Among them was the 3rd battle group. Yule's group. Admiral, we need to pull back, Commander Kim's voice came through. We're taking too much damage. If we pull back now, those battle groups are lost, Admiral Han replied. If we don't pull back, we'll all be lost. Jiwoo watched the displays. Yule's ships were fighting desperately, but they were outnumbered 10-1. As he watched, one of her cruisers exploded. Then another. We have to help them, Jiwoo said. We can't, Admiral Han said quietly. Her face was tight with pain. If we commit our reserves now, we won't have enough strength to destroy the shipyard. We have to let them go. No. Jiwoo's hands clenched into fists. There has to be a way. He studied the displays frantically. The Hrask formation was strong, but it had gaps. Small spaces where fewer ships patrolled. If they could exploit those gaps. There, he pointed. The Hrask are focused on the surrounded groups. Their rear formation is thin. If we send fast ships through there, we can hit them from behind. Force them to split their attention. Admiral Han looked at the map. Her eyes widened slightly. That might work. But it's risky. Everything is risky right now. She made the decision in seconds. All fast attack ships, form up. Commander Kim, you lead them through this gap. Hit the enemy from behind. Draw them off those surrounded battle groups. The human fast attack ships were small but quick. They dove through the gap in the Hrask formation, their weapons blazing. The Hrask swarm reacted, pulling ships away from the surrounded Keelans to deal with this new threat. It worked. The pressure on Yule's group lessened. They fought their way toward the main fleet, leaving debris and dead ships behind them. But the fast attack ships were taking brutal casualties. More than half were destroyed in the first few minutes. Commander Kim's ship took a direct hit and went dark. Commander Kim is down, the communications officer reported. Life signs detected, but ship is disabled. Now it was Jiwoo's turn to feel helpless. He watched on the displays as Hrask ships swarmed toward Commander Kim's crippled vessel. Then he saw movement. A group of Keelan ships broke away from their formation. They flew straight at the Hrask surrounding Commander Kim's ship. Leading them was Yule's command cruiser, its identification bright on the display. What is she doing? Admiral Han asked. She's supposed to be retreating. Yule's ships hit the Hrask like a hammer. Her cruiser's beam weapons cut through enemy ships with precision. The other Keelan vessels followed her lead, carving a path through the swarm. They reached Commander Kim's ship and formed a protective circle around it. All ships cover the rescue, Admiral Han ordered. The fleet surged forward to support Yule. The Hrask were confused now, their coordination breaking down. They didn't know whether to attack the main fleet, defend the shipyard, or stop the rescue operation. That confusion was all they needed. Strike teams reached the shipyard's power core and planted their charges. Massive explosions rippled through the structure. Secondary explosions followed as stored materials ignited. The shipyard began to break apart. "All ships withdraw," Admiral Han commanded. "We're done here." The fleet pulled back in organized chaos. Ships covered each other as they retreated. Yule's group successfully rescued Commander Kim and his crew, bringing them aboard her cruiser. The Hrask didn't pursue far. They were too busy dealing with the destruction of their shipyard. It broke apart in pieces, each chunk spinning off into space. Years of work destroyed in hours. When the fleet regrouped in safe space, they counted their losses. 70 human ships gone, 120 Keelan vessels destroyed, thousands dead. But they had won. The shipyard was destroyed. On the Dauntless, Jiwoo collapsed into a chair. His whole body shook with exhaustion and adrenaline. It was over. They had actually done it. "Good work," Admiral Han said. She looked tired too. "Your plan with the fast attack saved those Keelan ships. Commander Kim is safe?" "Yes, thanks to Ambassador Yule. She disobeyed orders to retreat and saved him." Admiral Han's expression was complex. She lost half her battle group doing it, but she saved him and his crew. Jiwoo needed to see her, to know she was okay. It took 2 days for the fleet to reorganize. When Yule's ship docked with the Dauntless, Jiwoo was waiting at the airlock. When she emerged, his heart jumped. She was alive. Hurt, with a bandage on her arm and burns on her face, but alive. Her patterns were dim, barely glowing. Exhausted and grieving. "You saved Commander Kim," Jiwoo said. "I did what was necessary." Her voice was flat. "Many of my people died to do it. You were brave." "Brave?" Her patterns flashed red suddenly. "I watched my ships die. My friends. People I've known for years. That's not bravery. That's just—" She stopped, her patterns flickering rapidly through several colors. Jiwoo stepped forward and pulled her into a hug. For a moment she stood rigid. Then she collapsed against him, her body shaking with suppressed sobs. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I'm so sorry." "You did everything right," Jiwoo said softly. "You saved lives. That's what matters." They stood there for a long time, holding each other. Around them, crew members passed by quietly, giving them space. 2 people from different species, holding each other up after the worst day of their lives. Later, at the memorial service for the fallen, Jiwoo stood beside Yule. They watched as names scrolled by on a display. Human names and Keelan names mixed together, all of them heroes, all of them gone. Empress Kayla spoke at the service. "Today we mourn together, human and Keelan, 2 species who were strangers just months ago. But we bled together. We fought together.